We are live again. Thank you for being here. And it's Wednesday noon, time for this week's AMA, where you can ask me anything about business strategy, marketing, technology, or whatever. But mostly that. Um, Again, this is our third one, and I'm I'm really excited. This is one of my this is one of my best. I think this is one of the things that I'm excited about this week or every week for the past 3 weeks is to get up in here and answer questions. And thank you for submitting all these questions. Um, this week we'll be answering some questions that were submitted late last week that I didn't see. So if you have questions for next week, go ahead and visit the site bit.ly RenzaGroup AMA, where you can submit your questions. Case sensitive. I don't know why. Again, maybe I should just, I don't know. I'll figure it out later. All right. So if you are tuning live, go ahead and hashtag live. And if you're watching this on the replay, go ahead and do a hashtag replay so I can see where the comments are and the viewers are coming from. So I hope this is a good time. Noon on Wednesdays. I really want to dedicate my lunchtime to you guys and answering these questions with the hopes of, helping someone. If you have a pressing issue, or if you're just curious about things, or if you're a tire kicker, or wherever you are in your entrepreneurial journey, I'm happy to help. And I'm also posting this. I'm not going live on Facebook or on YouTube, but this also gets uploaded to my YouTube channel, which I don't have a whole lot of videos. But if you're into YouTube, go ahead and follow me, youtube.com/PowerRange. So this is channel was from, I think, 14 years ago, and now YouTube won't let me change it. Won't let me change the channel name. I think until I get 100 subscribers or 1,000 hours of watch. I don't know how it works, but whatever. That's the channel name. So let's start with, actually, before I forget, we're going to start with a 55-minute countdown, right? So for our next question, or our first question today, is from Carol. Is that how you pronounce it? Carol. Can a mediocre product sell with really good marketing? Yes. If you have really good marketing, you can sell anything. I think the bigger question here is, can you keep selling with a mediocre product? Even if you have really good marketing, if your product sucks, or again, if it's mediocre, then you might not get a second purchase, right? Or your customers may not come back, depending on what it is you're selling. But yeah, totally. You see these, what do you call this? Like as seen on TV, right? Which is really marketed well because they do the demos. You see how awesome they are. And sometimes you buy it and they're like, oh, this is crap. But because of good marketing, it compelled you to buy, right? But would you buy it again? Or would you buy it for a friend? Would you buy it to gift to someone? Probably not, right? If the product's mediocre. But short answer is yes. With really good marketing, you can sell anything. Next question is, what is the best way to understand a competitor's marketing strategy? And this is from Bell. What's the best way to understand a competitor's marketing strategy? I mean, your guess is going to be as good as mine, right? Unless you know the person and they tell you what their strategy is, you're going to be guessing. But it's not to say that you shouldn't do it or you can't do it. Uh, if you the one way to understand your market is to look at your competitors. Um, there's a couple of ways to understand a competitor's marketing strategy, and one is to go to their if they're on Facebook, right? You can go to their Facebook page, and then there's something in there. Shoot, I wish I could. I'll probably readdress this next week so I can do a demo where you can see what kind of ads they're running, and then you look at the ad itself and look at a few things, right, to understand if an ad is working or not. You look at how long has the ad been running, because if it's been running for a long time, then you know that the ad works. Otherwise, he or she would have pulled it off. Now, if it's been running for a while, I don't know, maybe 2 weeks is a good measure. If the ad's been running for 2 weeks, then what you need to do is look at the ad itself, right? And look at the copy, look at the hook and the story, right? And that tells you, okay, that's kind of how you hack or you kind of or you dissect a Facebook ad. And then lastly, if it's a product, I would buy the product so you can experience it on an end user perspective, on a customer's perspective. Like what's the offer, right? What are they selling? How's the customer service? How seamless is the transaction, the online transaction? And with that tells you, like, you should learn a few points from there and what you can copy to make your product successful. But in terms of like the actual blueprint, that's going to be hard. You know, it's a guessing game, right? But have the experience, buy the product, go through the process, go through the same process that a user or a customer goes through when they engage or when they buy a product from a competitor. It's not a bad practice. It's one way for you to understand your market. So I don't know if it's the best way, but that's one way I would do it if I was trying to understand my competitors, see what they're doing. And you can also look at Google Ads. You can also look at Yelp and see if they have ads. Search for the keywords. Try to look for keywords that and see if they pop up. I don't know how much effort you should put into that. That's really up to you, depending on what stage you are in your business. But if you're just doing research to understand really what your competitors are doing, search would be a big help. Google search, Yelp, Facebook, and whatever exposure you get or from these platforms, that should give you a rough idea. Again, it's not a silver bullet. It gives you a clue. It gives you an idea of what they're doing. Hope that helps. Thank you, Belle. Okay, next question is from Ralph. Last week you talked about how important product validation is. Can you tell me how I go about doing that for a service that I'm thinking of launching? So there's a few ways to do product validation. And this is something that I've learned recently too. If you're... I don't know if it's the same for a product or a service. Let's look at a product, right? Let's say you're selling something tangible, an actual, like, let's say an e-com. This is like an iPhone case, whatever. I don't know why I picked it up. I would look at Amazon, search for similar products, and see if it's selling. And the way to know if it's selling is if you have a lot of reviews, right? That's a pretty good gauge. Go to Etsy, go to shopping.google.com. If you see that there's there's similar products and they're selling, that means there's market for it, right? The market is buying your product. Now, in terms of services, let's say you're a coach, or let's start with coach, right? Because this is something new that I've learned and I want to share it with you. if you're a coach of something, whatever it is, or if you're thinking of becoming a coach for whatever niche, right? So you explore the niche, like you look at the problem you're solving, and maybe go to Amazon and search for books about that problem or about solutions to that problem. If you have books out there with a lot of reviews, I don't know, maybe 500 reviews and up, or maybe five products with 100 reviews each, five books, that means there is demand. That means the problem really exists out there where people are looking for a solution. That's one. Secondly, you can go to medium.com. So medium.com is a sort of an aggregator for blogs and articles. So and you search for the topic, right? Whatever you're trying to solve again. And to see if there are a lot of articles out there with engagement. All right. Doesn't mean if there's an article doesn't mean it's really a hit, but you got to look for engagement. Are people commenting? Are people sharing those articles? That should validate the need for that in that niche. You can also go to this site, a website called, I forgot what it is, answerthepublic.com, and you type a keyword or two, and it tells you based on the number of results you get, that tells you the viability of the issue. So those are the top three things that I would use to validate a product or a service. Now, hold on, let me take a sip of my coffee. I want to stress the importance of validating a product or a service, because it's easy when we're excited and that's why I'm glad you asked this question, because sometimes we have an idea for a product or a service and we're super excited and we invest a lot of money, time, effort into launching this product or service, but it turns out it's not validated. There's no need. It's all in our head, or maybe a few people would buy it, but it's not really sustainable. And I think I talked about this last week, where that's one of the biggest mistakes I ran when launching different products and services, and not validating first, and then getting discouraged when no one's buying. So I'm glad you asked this question. Try that out first and let me know. Hit if it's validated, if you have really good validation, let me know. Email me, and maybe we can feature your journey on one of the videos that we're gonna make. So that's our fourth question. So before we answer the next question, if you guys like this process, these live AMA videos, let me know in the comments. Do like or share it with your friends, your group, whatever, and then submit your questions. It doesn't hurt. It's free. I'm not claiming that it's all my questions is going to be correct, but it's if these are the questions that I get are something that most of these I've dealt with myself. If not, I've dealt with my clients. So it doesn't hurt to have a second, third opinion. So feel free to send those questions in. And if you forgot the site, here's the website, bit.ly RenzaGroup AMA. That's where you pop in the questions, and every Wednesday morning I gather it and put it up here to answer. All right. Next question is, let me turn this off. Okay. How can I stop procrastinating? From Donnell. How can I stop procrastinating? This is a great question, because I used to be, and at times I do procrastinate. One way I got over it is by having a good and sticking to a good morning routine. Especially now with the pandemic, and if you're working from home, if you're whether an employee or if you're an entrepreneur who's just working from home, because we can't really go anywhere. We don't do client visits anymore. We don't do events, right? We're at home. It's easy to lose motivation and procrastinate because it's like you're rolling out of bed and there's no more, like, how do I say this? There was a time in this lockdown that I lost my sense of time because it's more just like a linear progression of time versus when, last year or earlier this year, where you wake up, you get ready, you go to work, go to the office, go visit clients. And even if you're an employee, right, you go to work, then you have lunch. Maybe sometimes you have lunch in the office. Sometimes you have lunch out. And then you finish work, you go somewhere, you go out to eat. There's a lot of things to do outside of work, right? So there's this what you call a pattern interrupt, right? So you work, there you have your work pattern, then you get interrupted. Oh, it's lunchtime. Then you work again, you get interrupted. Oh, it's dinner time. Oh, let me watch a movie. Oh, let me go to the mall. Let me go buy something, whatever. So there's a series of interrupts in our daily life, right? That keeps everything fresh. And at least for me, when it started to become a linear progression of time where everything's the same, you're locked in the house or in your room or in your office, where you could end up working until 9-10 p.m. and then you sleep, and so you lose all these interrupts that keep everything fresh. And that's why we procrastinate, or at least I'm going to speak for myself. That's how I started procrastinating. So what I did is I started, and this was months ago, I started having a morning routine where it's nothing crazy. As soon as I get up, I would make my bed. Simple, right? But sometimes that gets easily lost because I'll just whatever, just leave it there. So my morning routine is I wake up, I make my bed, I make breakfast, I eat, I take a shower, I get dressed, like whether I have a meeting or not, whether I'm going to be on a Zoom meeting in front of a camera or not, I will be ready by 8:30. Right? I'm ready to go by 8:30 where I'm showered, right? And what I've noticed is that when I started doing that, I feel more productive, even though I haven't done anything. The fact that you make your bed, there's a sense of productivity, at least for me. I don't know how you feel about it, but there's a sense of productivity just by making your bed. And I feel like I've already accomplished one thing. And the thing with procrastination is that it needs that catalyst. It needs that first task. Once you start that and you're on a roll, then you complete the second task. Then you complete the third task, fourth task, until you end your day fulfilled because you feel productive. And the procrastination starts when you don't start anything, because it's easy to get into a rabbit hole of YouTube videos, or if you're in Reddit or you're in Facebook, just constantly scrolling, and next thing you know, it's noontime, and you don't feel like starting anything anymore because it feels like it's too late in the day. Does that sound familiar? Because that's how I was. There would be days that I would be like, I wasn't motivated to work. So one thing that helped me is that having a morning routine where you just make your bed. Start there, right? Make your bed as soon as you get up, or get up in the morning, even if you don't have work, even if you only have two things to do for the entire day. Wake up early in the morning and get it done. Because sometimes maybe you have like, I only have two things to do today. I'll do it in the afternoon. And you end up just slacking all day. And by afternoon comes and you're like, I'm just gonna do it tomorrow. And that's so easy right now because we're not There's not a lot of things happening around us. So, short answer, wake up at a reasonable hour in the morning, right? And make your bed. First two steps. Make your bed and then have a small task. Start I refer to it as the low hanging fruit, right? You start with if you look at your task list, start with the low hanging fruit, the easiest one, and just get it done. And then you'll have a sense of accomplishment to pump yourself for the next task, right? And just keep doing it every day. If you have nothing to do, I mean, there's nothing to procrastinate on, right? But it doesn't mean that you should be sleeping all day. Clean your room, clean the kitchen, learn something. Go to YouTube, search for something you're curious about and learn it, and then teach it, right? There's ways to jumpstart your productivity. But again, start there. Make your bed in the morning, and that helps a lot. Thank you for that question. Next. It is still possible? Are you surprised? It is still possible to find my life's purpose at 53? Yes, it is possible. Or are you asking me? I guess this is an AMA. So I'm guessing this is a typo. Is it still possible to find my life? Let's answer two questions right now because I'm super confused about the way you worded it. I appreciate it, but let's do this. It is still possible to find my life's purpose at 53? Yes, and that's great. Now let's reword this. Is it still possible to find my life's purpose at 53? Yes, I think so. And I'm guessing that you haven't found yours, or you're in the journey of finding your life's purpose. Of course, it is possible. And I'm assuming that you know that already. So the bigger question here is that, where's my browser? I think what we need to do is to answer this is how, right? I guess the more important question is how are you gonna find your life's purpose? I want you to Google the term ikigai. And I actually talked to someone about this recently. And I'm going to type it here. Ikigai, all right? Ikigai, hang on, can you see it? Ikigai, right here. I want you to Google this and learn about this concept. So what this is if you really... this is a Japanese principle, a Japanese concept where ikigai means it's a purpose or a reason for being, right? And then once you Google this, look at the images and you'll see Venn diagrams. You know those Venn diagrams where there are circles that are interconnecting? So there's a process, really. There is a process you can go through to figure out what your ikigai is or what your purpose is, no matter what age you are, right? And ikigai is basically an intersection of something that you love, something that you're good at, something that the world needs, and something that you can be paid for. That's your purpose, right? Because if you... and I'm going to try to explain this as concise as possible because this is a full lecture. But that's the idea, right? If you're doing something that you love, something you're good at, something the world needs, is something that you can be paid for, whatever that is, that's intersecting those four circles, that's your purpose. And that's what, that's how you find it. Let me give you an example. For me, problem solving, right? Problem solving, that's my ikigai because that's something that I love to do. I love problems, right? I love stress. I love give it to me, whatever it is. The harder, the better. The most, yeah. I think if it's easy, it's boring. So I really like working on difficult problems. and I love it. I love it. That's all I can say. I'm also good at it. I'm really good at problem solving. Um, there is always a solution to everything. I don't accept a non-solution. I've never had a problem that did not have a solution. So there's that. I'm good at it. The world needs it, definitely. At least the business world, right? There's always a lot of problems. Businesses have problems. And fourth, that's I get paid to solve those problems. So to me, that's my purpose, right? That's my ikigai, is because that's the intersection. I'm good at problem solving. I love problem solving. A lot of people need problem solving, and I get paid to solve problems. So that's mine. Now, why does it have to be all four, right? Because if it's if you're doing something that you love and you're good at it, right? But the world doesn't really need it, and you're not getting paid for it, then it's a passion, right? Sometimes we deal with people like that where they're very passionate about something because they love it, they're good at it, but they're not getting paid for it. Um, and there doesn't necessarily a need for it, right? So for example, if you're good at something and you're getting paid for it, let's say your job, right? But you don't really love it, and the world can survive without it, then that's a profession, right? That's not your ikigai, that's your profession. Or if you're getting paid for something and the world really needs it, right? But you're not as good as you can be, and you don't love it, then that's your vocation. Now, if there's something that you love and that the world needs, right? Let's say you're a humanitarian, right? You love doing it. Um, the world needs it. Let's say Doctors Without Borders. That's a good example. They love what they do as doctors. The world definitely needs it, but they don't get paid for it. Then that's a mission, right? So again, I'm going over this Venn diagram that you can see yourself when you search for ikigai, and that's a starting point for you to figure out what you want. So the process on doing this is you actually have to list everything that you love to do, list everything that you're good at. Um, Actually, no. So if you start with a spreadsheet, you can list everything that you do, every single thing that you do, right? And then you'll have more columns saying, if this is something that you love, then you check it, right? I love doing these things. And then something that you're good at, then you check on it. And does the world need it? Check, if so. And same thing, can you get paid for it? Then if whatever those items that you do that has all four checks, that's your ikigai, right? So that's a starting point, but the short answer is yes, it's very possible to find your life's purpose at 53 years old. I'm assuming that's an age. I think it's pretty obvious. So thank you for that question. I think I rambled on that for a little bit. Next is from Jeremy. Which platform to place ad is the best? Facebook, IG, Google, for digital products and online courses. So this is, I think we covered this last week too, but this seems to be a very common question. Should you use Facebook, Instagram, which is kind of the same. Facebook and Instagram, you use the same platform. Or Google for digital products and online courses. It doesn't matter what you're selling. What matters is where your target audience is, right? So if your target audience is in Facebook or Instagram, then place ads on Facebook and Instagram. If they're Google is different. Google is not a place where people hang out. Google is a place where people search, right? So Google is always a yes, regardless, as long as you know how to, use keywords, use your SEO, because Google is more of a search thing. Somebody has to be searching for what you're doing, right? So you said online courses. Let's say you're teaching how to cook, for example, or you're teaching photography, whatever it is you're teaching. People will search, right? And you got to think of what are the search terms. Like if I'm learning to cook something, I would maybe use the keyword recipe, like recipe for ribeye steak, recipe for, right? So we use the keyword recipe. So now that means you have to work on your SEO. Whoever does your SEO, make sure you're ranking for that keyword recipe. Granted, that's probably a super competitive keyword, recipe. But so when people search for recipe, you come up, or your ad comes up, right? So Google is like, always have Google if you have the money, because that's search, right? Now, for the rest of your target market that aren't searching but may benefit from what you're selling for digital products and online courses, you use an interrupt-driven ads, which is what Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, those ads, right? That's what. Now, you got to figure out, and that's why I keep saying, you got to understand your market. Who's your market? Who's your avatar? Who's your George, right? I spoke about this, where you really need to have a full understanding on who your customer, who your dream customer, who your ideal customer is. What's his name? Gender, age, how does he or she feel about certain things. You really need to have that profile, because you would only know where they hang out if you have a full understanding on who this person is. Now, once you have that, and they're on Facebook on these groups, then that's when you start Facebook targeting, or Instagram, wherever they are. So that's the short answer to that. There's no best. There's what's best for you, but you don't know what's best for you if you don't have a profile, if you don't have a definition of your target customer, your dream customer, not a market, not a group of customers, one customer, right? So if it looks like here you're selling digital products and online courses, so if you've already taught these online courses, think about your best student. You can even use that as a reference. If you had a student that really loved what you taught, that shared your course to people and are very and was enthusiastic about the course that you taught, and that thought that you're the best teacher ever, find that student and use that as your profile. Now, once you have that profile, again, figure out where that type of person hangs out online, and then target that location with ads. If you need help in finding your perfect avatar or defining your dream customer, send me an email. I can help you with that. So thank you for the question, Jeremy. Next up is from Andy. What's up, Andy? Do you have any prediction of what things will look like post-pandemic in the marketing e-commerce world? Will things be moved more towards online? Would love your insight. I'm not really, I don't know if I can, I've never really done any predictions, but if I had to, I think online is going to stay, especially post-pandemic. I mean, now we've seen how in the worst case scenario, right, where everyone is locked down inside, obviously everybody, online shopping, online transactions went through the roof, right? I think even after the pandemic, it's going to stay. Marketing, e-commerce, it's all going to be online. And I think what this pandemic did is prove that e-commerce is safe for the most part, right? There are no scam sites, and that I think it taught people how to be more comfortable buying online if they weren't before the pandemic. So is it gonna stay? I think so. I think it's. I mean, if you think about this, even if, and there's data to prove this, right? If somebody asks you, "Hey Andy, where's the best sushi place?" and then you say, or what's the best seafood place? And then you're like, "Oh, I go to Bob Chin's," right? And even though they believe you, like, "Oh, I got to go to Bob Chin's," they will still go online and research Bob Chin's, right? They probably go online to look for the menu. They look for the hours that they're open, and the days that they're open. So even if they get information firsthand from you as a trusted friend, they would still go online and maybe still read reviews. Actually, not maybe. They will still read reviews about it to see if it's any good, no matter how much they trust you. So online is not going to go away anytime soon. So if this question was prompted because you're trying to decide whether you should invest in online marketing for your e-commerce, of course, that's. I mean, how else? I mean, what are our alternatives, right? Are you going to start printing flyers again? Are you going to start doing direct mail? No, online is still it goes back to the other question before from Jeremy, is that everyone is online. That's where our customers are. So there's no better location to market, right? Again, I'm assuming you're doing if this yeah, so I know you, Andy. So with what you're selling, yeah, online definitely, unless you want to, go back, go not go back, but do swap meets or like physical locations, farmers markets. It's just not sustainable, right? It's a lot of work. So yeah, short answer is yes, definitely. If not moved more online, it'll stay online. Next question. Hang on, let me take a sip of water. Do you recommend hiring a business coach even if I'm already having a steady income stream? And if so, what's the best way to find one that is right for you, Jose? I appreciate this question because note though that this answer is going to be biased because I started a coaching program. So, yes, of course, I recommend hiring a business coach even if you're already having a steady income stream. And I think it's better to have a coach when you're already making money. And I'll explain that in a little bit. And if so, what's the best way to find one that is right for you? So, this is a loaded question. Let me answer the second part first. What's the best way to find that is right for you, right? So when you're looking for a business coach, you got to figure out what problem do you want this coach to solve for you, right? Because if you just search for a business coach and then I'm sure you'll run into generic someone that says I'm a business coach. That's pretty generic. That's pretty vague. I think you should look for a coach that will resolve or that will fix the worst problem you have right now. Right? So if it's just a generic coach, then it could be high level for you. You might be wasting money. So you got to figure out what is it that you want this person to solve, right? And you say that you're already having a steady income stream, so I'm guessing you want to grow, right? And I'm going to use myself as an example because I used to sell myself as a problem solver for everything, right? When I go to conferences and people ask me, what do you do? I said, I'm a business consultant. And they're like, what do you consult? Like, I'm anything, right? I used to sell myself as a problem solver for any business issues, any business problems, which I I'm avoiding now. I don't introduce myself as even though I could, right? That's what I did for years is to solve whatever problem you have. You come to me, we'll have a solution. That was my thing. But I realized it's hard to connect with people, right? Because if I met someone and they and that was my intro, and I'm not hitting on their pain points, because again I'm like the jack of all trades, and I'm not hitting on their pain points, we don't connect, and I lose that opportunity to help that person. So what I've done is I've actually niched down. So now when you ask me what I do and what my platform is in terms of what I help business with, I help businesses grow from 6 digits to 7 digits in less than a year. That's my sweet spot, and that's what I tell people, right? I help small businesses grow, not just grow, from 6 to 7 digits. So if you're making at the very least $100,000 a year, I can help you make at the very least $1 million a year in less than a year. Get you to $1 million. That's my goal, right? So that said, you got to understand what do you need a business coach for? If you already have a steady income stream, the only thing I can think of right now is for you to grow, right? Steady income stream, then to grow or to scale. So if that's the case, find someone that will help you grow. But then growth is still kind of a vague offer, right? I'm going to help you grow. That's why with me, I was very specific. If you have 6 digits, we'll take you to 7 digits in less than a year. That's our goal. So if you're that person, then you got to find that person, hence me, that addresses that very specific need that you have, or what we call a bleeding neck problem. So again, step one, to answer your question, step one, write this down. What is your most immediate need? Where the most pressing bleeding neck that's bothering you the most in your business? Because just because you have a steady income stream doesn't mean you don't have problems, right? So find that out. And then once you've narrowed down, this is the biggest problem I have, find a person that will fix that particular problem. Now, when you reach out to these coaches, don't just say, hey, I have this bleeding neck problem, because they could easily say, oh yeah, I can fix that. Research what the person is doing and their marketing and their language and their message. If that resonates with what you need, then expand, then go further, right? Engage, talk to them, pick up the phone, talk to them, and have a gauge and see if they understand your problem. That's the biggest thing, because anybody can say, I can do this, right? But they need to be able to understand your problem. And you're the only one, you know your business more than anyone else. So you're the only one who can gauge and who can feel if someone understands what you're going through. And if you find that person that understands what you're going through, then you know that they can help you, right? Because like I said, problem solving, no matter how the skill, I think, right, in problem solving, the most important skill is understanding the problem first. If you don't understand the problem, your solution may not match the need. So, and that's why I say, find someone who understands your problem, who understands you as a business owner and what you're going through. And once you find that someone, I can guarantee you that's the person who can help you. So don't just go generic business coach, growth coach, whatever. Really look at their message. Look at what they're saying, what they're claiming, and see if that resonates with the problem that you have before you tell them what the problem is. So that's one way to find out if that person is right for you. Hope that helps. Hey, I'm gonna have to plug myself. So if you're looking for growth, if you're already making at the very least 6 digits and you want to go to 7 digits in less than a year, then contact me and then we can work. And let's see if we're a good fit. Thank you for that. Next question. How did you start your career as an entrepreneur? Oh, right. There's no it's anonymous. How did you start your career as an entrepreneur? So it's a personal question. I don't think I ever had a start. Oh, I want to do this. Mine is a slow progression, and this could be. We have 12 minutes, so this is a long story that I don't think we have 12 minutes. I can probably create a separate video to tell you about about my background, but I didn't have a starting point. I don't think I have a date. It just really all stemmed from childhood. When I'm gonna tell you the story. When I grew up in the Philippines, and when I was, how old was I then? I think I was in either 6th grade or freshman in high school when I got into mahjong, playing mahjong, right? And in where I lived, there's a bunch of people who played mahjong, and I learned, and I didn't have money, right, to play, so I would. This is not something I'm proud of, but this is kind of where it started. So I started and also in the Philippines, when you buy Coca-Cola, or when you buy soda, or they call it soft drinks. When you buy soft drinks, you go to a store and say, "Hey, I want a Coke," and they give you a Coke bottle. You have to pay a deposit for the bottle because you have to return the bottle, because the stores return it to the distributor, right? So you pay whatever, 50 cents, 25 cents for a deposit, and then when you return the bottle, they give you the 25 cents back. Anyway, and there's a reason for that. So for me, again, I'm not proud of this, okay? Just to say, but I would go to like warehouses and I would look for empty Coke bottles that are just like laying, like nobody owns, right? It's just warehouses, like bodegas, and I would clean it. I would wash the Coke bottles, and I would go back to the store and say, "Hey, here's the bottle, give me my 25 cents, right? If I have like 3 bottles, give me my 75 cents. That's how I kind of hustled. I know it's not the most honest thing, but I was a kid. I wanted to play mahjong. So that's kind of how I hustled. And I was a kid that never asked I didn't ask for more than I need from my grandma. So if I wanted to play mahjong, I would hustle. I would do that. Or even if I wanted to buy a toy or buy anything, really, I would figure out ways to make money. I remember my mom bought me and this was already in high school, where my mom bought me a computer, and it came with a printer. It's a color printer. Back then it was an inkjet. I mean, not super high resolution, but it was colored. And not a lot of people in the Philippines had printers, right? So what I would do is I would go to this fancy bookstore. I would buy a cardstock, but with designs. What do you call it? It's like stationary cardstock. And I would walk around like some businesses where I lived and say, "Hey, do you want me to make you business cards?" Right? And I would make business cards out of cardstock and the inkjet printer. And I didn't even have one of those fancy cutters. I would cut it manually using scissors. So they're just like these jagged business cards that I would sell to businesses, because even these businesses don't have money to go to a printing press, right? So I would make like maybe 50 business cards for random businesses in the neighborhood. But the point is, I think that's how I started. I just had the knack for selling things and making money. And the history behind that, I think it's more. I don't want to go through it right now, so I'll probably make a separate video for it. But yeah, there's no starting point. I'm just, I guess, out of necessity, is because we didn't have a whole lot and I wanted things, so I hustled and made money so I can buy things. That's how it. If there's a starting point, that's what it is. But there's more behind it, which I will probably create a separate video. Sorry, it's not a full answer, but this is why. So today I didn't like go through the questions. Like I didn't I don't have prepared answers, right? This is just as I just imported this on this app, and whatever shows up, and it's all off the top of my head. Anyway, we got 7 minutes. I hope that. Sorry, I rambled on that part. I started a travel blog last year, then travel stopped. I haven't posted in months, and I've been wanting to post, but since I haven't been traveling, my content has been stale, and I'm afraid my audience count will die down. Help. From Ria. Ria. First off, I feel for you. Yeah, travel. It sucks. I haven't traveled either. I could have made like 2 Japan trips, and a trip to the Philippines or somewhere else by now this year, but we're all stuck. So I feel what you're going through. In terms of content, I don't think you need to be traveling to post content, right? You can still engage with your followers even without traveling. So if you have a travel blog, I'm guessing, but I'm pretty sure that your audience is not just interested in you being in different places, right? And your audience, I'm assuming that they're travel bugs, not just destination, but overall the travel experience. So if I can give you some ideas, right? You don't need to travel. I mean, you can still post about, I don't know, the advantages of having TSA pre-check. Talk about your experience before and after having pre-check. What are your thoughts about clear, right? Talk about your favorite luggage. What are the luggages that you've tried, and can you do a comparison? There's a lot of things you can talk about on your in terms of travel content. What do you think about the current policies that airlines have? For example, just right off the top of my head, like if you're a Delta flyer, I know last time I checked, I know they leave the middle seats empty, right? So you always have an empty seat next between you and the next customer. But American doesn't. American fills up their plane, right? What are your thoughts about that? What travel deals are out there? What do you think about Scott's cheap flights? What's it like now? What's the experience like in airport lounges now with social distancing? And there's a lot of things. So it's not just about the destination, but about the whole travel world, the travel experience. If you go to travel blogs, or not travel blogs, like travel groups, there are Facebook. I belong to like a couple of Facebook groups that are about travel, and Reddit subreddits, and look at what people are asking for, and post that, right? Answer that and post it. Do an AMA like this about travel. So there's a million ways you can come up with content. It's not necessarily just about you being in Morocco or being in the Maldives or you at an airport. Really talk about them, right? Talk about your experiences using certain travel privileges or travel services. Follow Brian Kelly of TPG, the points guy, and they're pretty active on their Instagram, and they talk about the current state of the airline industry and a lot of travel related articles, and use that as your guide. The key is finding out what your audience is looking for or what the travel people are looking for, and they will consume it, whatever you put out there. So there's a lot. You can still post a lot about a lot of things when it comes to travel. So hope that helps. And I would love to see your travel blog. So I'll search for your email address. And I mean, you gave me your email address, but I'm going to search for your Facebook page and see if we can, see what we find there. Next is, okay, 2 minutes. So there's still 4 questions. I only have time to answer maybe one. So I'm in the events industry, and now that events are not happening, I have no other choice but to look for a 9 to 5. If you were in my shoes, what would you do as a last ditch effort, Amy? So Amy, I also feel the pain. I know a lot of people in the events industry that are just really twiddling their thumbs right now. If you were in my shoes, what would you do as a last ditch effort? If you don't want to find a 9 to 5, if you don't want to go to that route, I'm not sure exactly what you do in the events industry, but I'm pretty sure you have something to teach, right? I would try teaching. I would try. That's just one, right? I don't know if I can answer your question in 2 minutes, but there are ways to explore this. There are ways to pivot. If you want to stay in the events industry, what are still happening, right? I mean, the events industry didn't shut down 100%. It shut down, I would say, 95%. There are still virtual events. Depending on what you do, get into virtual events. How you can help there. Explore that. Either that or be a guide on something. If you're in the events industry, you probably have a lot of connections. Connect people. Connect people with connect providers with people that are looking for certain things. I don't know. Again, I'm thinking this is all off the top of my head, but there are ways. The key is help people. I know you're struggling. We all are, right? But use instead of focusing on what can I do for me, if you want to stay in the events industry, shift that mindset and focus on what can I do for other people that are struggling and help them, right? Don't look for results yet, and see if something comes out of it, and then explore, try different things, but in the framework or in the mindset that what can you do to help other people? Try that mindset. I get what you're saying. I get that you're struggling since the events industry are pretty much shut down. But it's not 100% shut down. There's about 5-ish%, I think, that are still happening. Find that road. Find that light. There's that sliver of light at the end of that tunnel, and just go for it. Again, this is a last-ditch effort. So, like, if I'm put in a position where it's a last ditch effort, then I would do everything I can to find something. But again, not find something for me, find something for other people. And there's a big principle behind this that I don't have time to go through right now, but trust me. I know you don't know me, but trust me. If you try to help other people first, it comes back tenfold. So I can do another webinar about that, but just trust me right now. Find something to do for other people and forget about yourself for now. Again, this is a last ditch effort, It's only going to work out if you're helping someone. Okay, have that mindset. It's not easy, but just try it out. Um, so I wish you the best, and we can keep talking about this. Just send me an email. I'd be happy to point you to. I'd be happy to give you a more concise process or framework so you can take your next steps. So whatever I can do to help. So we still have 3 questions. This will go next week. It's already 1 o'clock, and an hour our hour's over. But again, I love doing this. I'm having a good time answering these questions. If you're watching the replay, type replay on the comments. So I want to see where you guys are coming from. All right. Again, for questions, boop boop. Follow the link. I'll also post it on the comments later, so you can pop in your questions for next week. And that's it. Thanks again. And to end the show, this is my outro.